Hi, it's Dr. D from BrainBasedScience.com. Welcome to episode 5 of Brain Tips 2.0. As you know, this is the last episode for Brain Tips 2.0. And in December, I'm going to be taking a hiatus in preparation for Brain Tips 3.0 that's going to be beginning in January of 2021. I'm really excited about that because we're going to be delving into English language learners and the brain. And what I'm going to be providing for you are resources and an understanding as to what happens in the brain when students are learning a second language. This information is paramount to you, especially that general education teacher, and understanding what you can do to improve your instruction so that it can be more effective, so that your English language learners in your classroom can also be academically successful as your regular English speaking students. Now, last week we spoke about teacher relationships and student relationships, that student and teacher relationships, and how it is paramount, and I mean paramount, to the student's academic success. But also what's paramount to student-teacher success is that student-to-student relationship. And it's how do you do it in your classroom so that the students can release all of those chemicals that we need for learning, from dopamine to noradrenaline to serotonin, and all of these chemicals that are released as a part of their learning experience. So without further ado, let us begin episode 5 of Brain Tips 2.0. As always, let's begin with a quote. And this quote is from Fred Rogers. When children learn more about one another, and when they know their teachers recognize and celebrate their differences, they are more likely to feel a sense of community in the classroom. Teachers foster mutual respect when they provide activities that encourage conversation, sharing, and interaction. So, first I'm going to remind you of this one thing before we start this episode. The brain is a social brain. The brain loves relationships and interaction. That's what you got to remember, okay? The brain is social. So, in order to create these relationships, the brain needs 3 things to happen. 1, you need to be able to identify the emotion, to name your emotion. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm furious, I'm angry, I'm elated, I'm feeling depressed, but they have to be able to name the emotion. The second thing is you have to be able to regulate your emotion. And that's where things like mindfulness comes in, because it shows you how to regulate whatever emotion you just named. Okay, so whatever state that you're in, you have to be able to regulate it. And mindfulness helps you with that. And that's why some classrooms, teachers have these rooms set aside where if the student is very upset, that's where they can go to try to use their breathing techniques or whatever it is that they have been taught through mindfulness to be able to regulate that emotion. That has to occur. All right? So you can't be blowing up. You can't be, as the kids say, blacking out. You can't be, also, you can't be withdrawing yourself, becoming silent, and not addressing it. So you need to be able to, the brain needs you to be able to regulate the emotion. And the third one is you need to be aware and recognize the emotions of others. All right? So imagine someone comes up to you and they're really, really upset about something, and you just continue, oh, you know what? I had a basketball game yesterday and I scored 25 points, 26 points, and oh, it was such a wonderful time. And the person that you're with is upset and you don't acknowledge that. That's not good. That's not healthy. So you need to be able to be aware of the other person's emotions, because that's going to help you with the way that you're going to interact with that person. So those 3 things are very, very important for you to be able to recognize. Now, what you might not know is that they found a place in the prefrontal cortex. Remember, the prefrontal cortex is your thinking brain. It's your logical brain, right? So they found this part of the prefrontal cortex called the orbital prefrontal cortex that actually stores information from relationships. It stores it. Okay? And what they also found out in research is that for kids who make, or people, not just kids, who have a lot of friends and who have a lot of social interactions, that this area of the brain is larger. So you have to make that connection that these interactions are important to the brain. Okay? And it's a larger section of the brain. So that has to be thought about for you to understand the importance of it. Now, you might say, okay, that's good, Dr. D. What about it? What does it have to do with me? What does it have to do with education and my lesson design? Well, when we create lessons that involve student-to-student interactions, cooperative learning, collaboration, teams, problem-based learning projects, where the kids have to get together, something very, very awesome happens. Okay? All the chemicals that we know, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, okay, noradrenaline, all of these chemicals are released. And I only named a few. That's important. Remember, dopamine helps you with setting goals. It's your pleasure chemical, right? Noradrenaline, that's your excitement. You're feeling excited. And then we have oxytocin, which is the attachment chemical when you feel like you belong. Then we have serotonin, which is like, I'm just feeling good. I'm chilling right now. The world is a great place. So these chemicals are released when relationships are formed. When a student moves from seeing their team, their classmate, their peer, from a classmate to a teammate, these chemicals are released. I'm going to repeat that. When a student moves from seeing their peers as teammates as opposed to classmates, these chemicals are released. Can you imagine what that does for a classroom environment? Behavior issues will decrease. Learning will increase because it now is a warm, safe environment. They have connections with their kids that they see every day. The body, there's no stress coming in through our two filters, and learning can occur. Jo Boaler, a professor at Stanford, also did research. And what she found was that when the kids are able to have these interactions and able to look at their peers as teammates, that it keeps them from giving up. Why? Because they have other people to speak to aside from the teacher. So they have another network. They have another, branch that they can grab onto where they can ask questions, academic questions, and have academic conversations. There's another place that they can go to where they can say, hey, I don't get this. Can you help me? All of these things are very, very positive, and it keeps the kids, it has found to keep the kids from giving up. So you might say, okay, what does that mean? What that means is that when you create your lessons, we need to be creating lessons that allow for these type of social interactions within the classroom. That's what needs to happen. We're not doing it because it looks great. We're not doing it because it's on your teacher evaluation. It needs to be done because it increases student achievement. It allows the kids to be able to grow that much more academically. So, being that we are in this present pandemic situation, our numbers are spiking. A lot of schools are going back to 100% remote who weren't remote. What does that mean for you? Use those breakout rooms. Allow the kids to go into the rooms, interact with each other, complete projects or to collaborate. Do that because it is very, very important in learning. Those student-to-student relationships are just as important as those teacher-to-student relationships. So, before I sign off, I just want to remind you that in December, I am taking a hiatus as I will be working towards Brain Tips 3.0, which is going to be focusing on English language learners and the brain. But you will be seeing Brain Burst coming throughout the months of December. You know those, I try to explain things in under 1 minute. So the Brain Burst will be coming out, but Brain Tips 3.0 will be back January 12th of 2021. Also want to let you know that on the website for this 5th episode, I have a tremendous amount, a plethora of resources for you to show you how to create these cooperative groups, how to increase collaboration, and how to be able to make your lessons in a way so that we have more student-to-student interactions. You will see when you increase that relationship, you decrease behavioral problems within your classroom. So, happy holidays, happy New Year's, and happy sciencing, Dr. D.